We always talk about money in terms of like, cold hard numbers, right?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
balances and rates and profits. But I don't know about you, but for me, it's always felt like there's so much more to it than that.
Oh, absolutely. It's all tangled up with how we feel, our worries and anxieties. It even ties into how we see ourselves in the world.
Yeah, exactly. And that emotional side of money, that's what we're going to be diving into today. Really going to zero in on money stress and just generally feeling anxious about finances.
Right, because like all the stuff you sent over, it really highlights how much these feelings can impact, your well-being, like really impact it.
Yeah, and we've got all these different perspectives and insights here. They all kind of point to the same thing. Financial worries, if you let them, they can spiral, and that impacts the choices you make and ultimately your whole state of mind.
Totally. So today, let's really break it down. Like, where does this financial anxiety come from? What's the root of it all? And how does it affect you, beyond just like the numbers in your bank account?
Right, because it's not just about like, oh, I have this much or that much. It's about how it makes you feel.
Exactly. And most importantly, what can you actually do about it? What are some practical ways to deal with it? That's what we're going to get into. So it's like
Yeah.
your crash course on like understanding this, like
Yeah,
super important part of personal finance.
I like that. A crash course. So, one of the things that really jumped out at me from what we've been looking at is the idea that, what happens early on in your life can have a huge
Oh,
influence.
absolutely. Those early experiences, they really lay the groundwork, don't they?
Yeah, like if you grow up, let's say, in a family where money's tight, or even if it's just something that's never talked about, like it's this big secret.
Right, right. Like it's taboo or something.
Exactly. It's like that can plant a seed, right? This like underlying fear of not having enough, and it can stick with you.
Like a scarcity mindset almost, right?
Huh.
You get programmed to think that way. And the thing is, even if things change later on, even if you become financially successful,
Yeah.
that deep-seated fear, it can linger.
It's like a ghost in the machine.
Yeah. Makes even small setbacks feel like huge crises.
And it's not just our upbringing, right? It's also about the messages we get from the world around us.
Hmm.
Society kind of drums these things into you about what's considered like normal or successful when it comes to money.
Oh, for sure. The whole social environment plays a huge role. It's like, what images are you bombarded with constantly?
Mm.
Wealth, status, material possessions. It's everywhere you look.
Yeah, and it can really mess with your perception of where you should be financially.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You start comparing yourself to these, like, often completely unrealistic standards. And that comparison game, it's a recipe for anxiety. Makes you feel like you're always falling short.
Speaking of unrealistic standards, there was this really interesting concept that I came across in one of the articles, the one from the Financial Times. They called it money dysmorphia. And I feel like it's so relevant, especially nowadays.
Oh, totally. It's all about how in the digital age, with social media and everything, we're constantly exposed to this like curated, airbrushed version of reality. And when it comes to money, forget about it. It's all yachts and private jets and like perfectly staged avocado toast.
So basically what you're saying is our idea of what's financially normal is getting warped.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You might be doing okay financially, objectively speaking, but you get sucked into comparing yourself to these like online personas, and it just fuels this feeling of inadequacy, like you're never going to measure up.
It's almost like we're all looking at our financial lives through this like distorted funhouse mirror. Okay, so we've talked about like early experiences, societal pressures, this whole digital distortion thing, but here's the thing. This stress doesn't just stay in our heads, right? It actually impacts us physically.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And it can get pretty serious, too. There's a very real connection between how you're feeling about money and your overall health.
Yeah, a couple of the articles went into some specific examples of how this plays out, like sleep problems, for one. I know that for me, if I'm stressed about money, it's like my brain just won't shut off at night. Makes it almost impossible to relax.
Oh, I totally get that. When you're worrying about money, it triggers this whole stress response in your body.
Yeah.
Like you're constantly on high alert, and that makes it hard to wind down and actually get good quality sleep.
Right. And we all know what happens when you don't sleep well. It affects everything, your mood, your energy levels, your ability to focus. And the articles mentioned something else that I found kind of scary, high blood pressure.
Yeah, it's wild, isn't it?
Yeah.
Something that seems like so abstract, financial stress, can have a direct impact on your physical body.
It really shows how connected our mental and physical well-being are. And it can even get worse than that, right? Because some of the research even points to a link between long-term financial stress and more serious mental health problems, like depression and anxiety disorders.
Right. And it makes sense, right? When you're under constant stress, no matter what the cause is, it takes a toll on your mental health. Financial anxiety, it can create this like heavy feeling of hopelessness. And that kind of chronic worry, if it's not dealt with, can definitely increase your risk of developing those kinds of conditions.
It's like a vicious cycle, isn't it? The stress makes your health worse, which can then make it harder to do well at work, which could impact your finances even more, leading to, you guessed it, even more stress.
Exactly. It's this downward spiral. Your health suffers, both mentally and physically, and that makes it harder to earn money, manage your money effectively. It just feeds the problem.
So, we've talked about where this financial anxiety comes from, how it affects us. Now, let's talk about how our brains actually deal with money decisions. Because some of the stuff we've been reading about has pointed to some pretty interesting cognitive biases, ways that we don't always make the most rational choices when it comes to our finances.
Yeah, totally. It's like even when we think we're being logical, our emotions can totally hijack the process.
Right.
And one of the biggest culprits is this thing called loss aversion.
Right. That's that idea that the pain of losing money feels way more intense than the pleasure of gaining the same amount.
Exactly. And that can lead to some pretty uh, interesting behaviors, let's say.
Hmm?
Like on the one hand, it can make you super cautious, overly cautious even.
How so?
Well, you might be so scared of losing money, even just the possibility of it, that you avoid investing altogether, even if it's in something that has the potential to really grow your money over time.
So rather than take a risk, even a calculated one, people will just sit on their cash.
Yep. Or they'll stick to super conservative investments, the kind that barely even keep up with inflation. So they're actually losing money in the long run just because they're so terrified of losing money. It's kind of ironic when you think about it.
So that fear of loss can actually end up costing you more in the long run.
Wow. What about the other side of that coin? What about people who are like overly confident? How can that backfire?
Well, overconfidence, it's like this belief that you can predict the market, that you're always going to make the right call. And that can lead people to take on way too much risk. They might invest in really volatile assets without really understanding what they're getting into, or they'll make impulsive decisions based on gut feeling rather than, actually doing their research.
And then what happens? They make a bad bet and freak out.
Pretty much. And when those risky bets don't pay off, it can be pretty devastating, both financially and emotionally. So yeah, both extremes, being overly fearful or overly bold, they can both lead you down a path of financial stress.
So recognizing these biases, that's the first step. But what can we actually do to manage this money anxiety? Because some of the articles actually offered some pretty solid advice. Yeah, absolutely. It's not just about understanding the problem. It's about taking action, right? And one of the most fundamental things you can do is create a financial plan.
A budget.
Yeah, exactly. And not just a budget, but also like setting some clear financial goals, things you actually want to achieve. Might sound simple, but you'd be surprised how many people don't do it.
Right. It's like having a roadmap.
Totally.
Yeah.
And that sense of control, it can really reduce anxiety.
Right.
Like even if unexpected stuff happens, if you have a plan in place, you're in a much better position to deal with it.
So step one, get organized. What else?
Another big one is education. Improving your financial literacy. It's like anything else, the more you understand something, the less scary it becomes.
Makes sense.
So read books, take online courses, listen to podcasts, whatever works for you. Just make sure you're constantly learning and growing your knowledge about personal finance.
Okay, so educate yourself. Got it. Any other strategies?
This one might sound a little out there, but I actually think it's really valuable. Mindfulness.
Mindfulness, like meditation and stuff. How does that apply to finances?
Well, think about it. When you're stressed about money, you tend to make impulsive decisions, right? You react emotionally rather than thinking things through. But if you take a moment to pause, breathe, get grounded before you do anything drastic, it can really help.
So it's about creating that space between like feeling that urge to do something and actually doing it.
Exactly. It helps you make clearer, more rational choices. And if things are really getting to you, don't be afraid to reach out for professional help.
You mean like see a financial advisor?
Sure, an advisor can be great for practical advice, but I'm also talking about like a financial therapist or counselor, somebody who can really help you work through the emotional stuff that's tied up with your money.
Because sometimes it goes deeper than just like figuring out a budget or a savings plan.
Absolutely. And one last thing, and this is a big one in today's world, be mindful of your social media consumption. We talked about that money dysmorphia thing earlier.
Right, like all those curated lifestyles and perfect Instagram feeds, it can really mess with your head.
Totally. So be selective about what you're exposed yourself to. Focus on content that promotes, a healthy, realistic approach to money.
So, to sum it all up, what we're really saying is money stress. It's not just about the numbers. It's about so much more than that.
It's about your past experiences, the messages you've absorbed from society, even the way your brain is wired. And it can impact your health, both your body and your mind, in some pretty profound ways.
But the good news is there are things you can do about it. And we've talked about a bunch of them today. Creating a financial plan, educating yourself, practicing mindfulness, seeking professional help if you need it, and being mindful of what you're consuming online.
All of those things can make a huge difference.
So, as we wrap up, here's something to think about. Take a moment and reflect on your own relationship with money. What messages did you pick up early on? How might those be shaping your feelings and behaviors today? And most importantly, what's one small step you can take right now to start feeling more in control and less anxious about your finances?
Sometimes just that one little step can be the start of a huge positive change.
That's a great place to leave it. Thanks for listening, everybody.
See you next time.